The debut of the Juliana Furtado and Santa Cruz 5010, then called the Solo, happened recently enough that, at the time, it was already a novelty to combine short travel and 27 5-inch wheels. And now, almost 8 years later, these bikes still lean into their novelty. But we got a little distracted before we talked about it.
Would you look at the color of that Juliana Furtado?
Oh boy, I wish I could have that color.
Do they make it in a large?
No, they don't.
No.
Damn it.
But it's the best color I've seen on a bike this year.
Yeah, honestly, I'm like, I can't stop looking at it. It's an amazing
Yeah,
color.
you're supposed to look forward. Their camera's over here.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Color aside.
Color aside, yeah.
One of the things about the Juliana Furtado, they've said this is their best-selling bike. It would be nice for them to invest in a size large for this bike, just so, if you're going to go through the trouble of making and marketing this women's bike, just having it something for everyone would be, I think, a good move on their part.
Because then we could buy it and ride that rad color.
Ride that rad color. Yeah.
One of the things they changed with this version of the Furtado 5010 is last time around, they had offered it in aluminum frames, which, got that price point down below $3,000, I think, for a complete build. And they're not doing that anymore. Entry level is $4,100, so, but that's still not bad for a complete carbon bike.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no more aluminum builds.
Full disclosure, this is our last day of testing bikes. We've been riding 120 short travel 29ers. And I was kind of dreading today getting on 27-inch bikes, and yeah, really blown away. Super fun, really kind of deliberate ride characteristics with all these. It really just puts a smile on your face.
Yeah, it's definitely just a little fun play machine.
Totally.
So 130, 140.
130, 140 travel, and I think that if you've watched our roundtables before, you probably know that I've never really been a huge fan of Santa Cruz's VPP, and this bike is dialed. The suspension feels so good. They really, really, really nailed it. There's no feedback on. We had a pretty technical, rooty climb that I don't think any of us cleared the entire thing in one go, right? And there was no pedal feedback that they used to have, and you get this super supportive all the way through the travel, but really still supple, very, very, very good tune.
Yeah.
On the suspension overall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great updates to the platform.
Yeah.
Even just the aesthetics and the cable routing and all these little details. It's just, it's really buttoned up, and it's a beautiful package.
Yeah, they switched to this SRAM universal dropout, which SRAM is trying to get the whole industry to sort of adopt, and I think it's kind of a cool push. It would be cool if, imagine if there was one derailleur hanger for most of these bikes, and you could just go to the shop and grab one,
There's a lot to this update, especially given the previous generation had a pretty short life cycle. At the time, the new lower link design wasn't thought to suit bikes with such short travel. Turns out it does, making for a bike that's not just fun and capable, but fast and efficient.
I mean, speaking of that efficiency, this was the only bike actually that we rode the whole week where I didn't feel the need to reach down and kind of mess with the climb switch. And it is a lot farther down than a lot of these other bikes. It's not right there, but also I didn't feel like it was totally necessary.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? I did reach down and mess with it, probably because I was a little more tired than you on the climbs. But what I did notice was that I felt like the lockout was a little too firm in almost in a way that made me not want to use it, right?
Right, yeah, I definitely locked it out on the fire roads, but had it active for any other, single track climbing.
Yeah.
It would be nice if that lockout was not quite as firm. I think you'd just get more use out of the shock on a bike.
Trail.
Right, on a bike like this.
Yeah, but honestly, that's sort of my only little gripe at all. Spec-wise, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's the only bike in our test also where I said I wouldn't change a single part, and we're talking the nitpicky details.
Yeah.
I can get along with the grips, I can get along with the seat, everything on there is just really intentional and really complements the ride characteristics.
It's true, yeah.
I mean, it's an expensive bike.
It is.
It's $8,100.
So let's hope you're not looking at
hopefully
what
you're not changing
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does feel amazing. Those reserve wheels with the tire, like the tire wheel setup is like on point. We've got kind of like a pretty fast rock garden on the final descent, and I just felt so good on this bike.
Yeah.
It just like everything just worked together.
Yeah. I especially loved the cornering on this bike.
Absolutely.
It just like, it dove into corners so extremely well. Not just like, I mean, the reach is perfect, the head angle's good, it's not too slack and raked out. You can get over it, you feel balanced front to rear on the thing. But also that suspension, again, is supportive enough and like poppy enough that when you load it into corners, it like helps you spring out and gain speed, and it's like
Absolutely.
a wonderful feeling. Yeah.
And speaking of geometry, this bike has size-specific chainstays, which is interesting. They haven't done that before. So I think that's just kind of another benefit to
It
fitting
really-
every, like
yeah.
a broad spectrum of people
It
well.
seemed to really contribute to this really balanced feel, even though it's a short travel kind of nimble bike. It really had a balanced, composed feel when you were getting into situations where you were kind of at the limits of that 140, 130 travel,
You know, one thing that I think maybe tend to overlook with 27.5 bikes, because we always like to talk about their sort of negative attributes, or we just like to say that they're really playful. But what we forget a lot of times is the acceleration. Like when you stomp on the pedals, it just goes, which actually is really good depending on what sort of terrain you're riding. Like if you have a lot of techie stuff and you're like changing speeds a lot,
Yeah.
like you actually save energy because it's easier to get it up to speed. And it's almost like you can kind of forget about it, right? Like it's just a simple kind of ride.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at a lot of the bikes out there, and it's easy to look at a lot of these bikes on paper and kind of have these preconceived notions of what it's going to do and what it's capable of.
Yeah.
And maybe it's easy to think that a short travel 27.5 bike isn't as capable, and you hop on this bike and you feel like it's a really capable all-arounder. It can do everything that these other bikes can do, maybe with a bit more fun.
Yeah, like I think a lot of us tend to sort of now we started to think about 27.5 bikes as like young kids bikes. Like, oh, you're just like a young little whippersnapper, get a little skateboard bike,
Yeah.
And I don't think that's really the case. I think us over the hill folks can ride these things
big,
too.
coming from Palmer, these are big words.
The updated 5010 may not convert diehard 29er fans, but it could probably swing just about anyone who's undecided. And for those who've been on the small-wheeled side of the aisle since the beginning, the 5010's had your back all along. We've got the full written review and the rest of the Bible of Bike Test videos at bikemag.com.